India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is one world leader that has sent a message of congratulations to US President-elect Joe Biden. Foreign Policy this week wrote of Indian Americans' love of Kamala Harris, whose mother was a biologist in India before migrating to the USA. But together, what does the new US presidency mean for one of the world's biggest nations, India? Joining us is the CEO of Indian Link Media Group, Pawan Luthra. Pawan, thanks for your time this afternoon.
Thanks for having me, Tracey.
Before looking forwards, Pawan, what gains and what losses were there for India under the Trump presidency?
Look, before I get there, but I just want to circle back to why India has loved the last 4 days, because if I might draw on to a sporting analogy, this last 4 days of counting was very much like Test cricket.
I knew you were going to say that, Pawan.
There was something changing at every moment, before lunch, after lunch, before midnight, with all the leads changing hands and so on. So I think we started off on the right foot by having a bit of a cricketing analogy. And as you know, India is a cricket-loving nation. So if they can get any links to cricket, I think we are on the right foot over there.
I think there's still a long way to go for cricket in the USA, but we'll get to that.
But we will. Tracey, in terms of... there was a very strong relationship between the Indian Prime Minister Modi and President Trump. A few months ago, we had a big rally organized in Houston for Prime Minister Modi, and there were about 50,000 Indian Americans over there. And for the very first time, an American president, which is obviously President Trump, was invited to this rally. And the optics of this showed a very close relationship between the Indian Prime Minister and the US President. And also, when President Trump went to India earlier this year, Narendra Modi did something similar for him in one of the biggest cricket grounds, had 100,000 people come to this rally, called it Namaste Trump. And the optics was that we are both very strong leaders of two democratic countries. And the relationship between them was quite strong. But the other area where the relationship worked out very well was that Trump was very quiet on India's internal issues. There were some changes to the National Register of Citizenship and the Citizenship Amendment Act, which were introduced by the Indian government, which controversially had some issues against Muslims in India. And though Kamala Harris and Joe Biden spoke out against that, we found that President Trump kept very quiet, which was well appreciated by the Indian leadership, that there was no comments forthcoming from President Trump.
So looking at the Biden-Harris combination, what are they going to bring, obviously that is going to be quite different, but also knowing that Biden was considered a friend of India before his vice presidency under Obama?
Mm-hmm. And so Biden's always had very close links within India. In one of his campaign documents, he has said, and if I may quote, that the Biden administration will work with India to support a rules-based and stable Indo-Pacific region in which no country, including China, is able to threaten its neighbors with impunity. So India was obviously heartened by the statement that there would be a very hawkish approach which President-elect Biden would have towards that part of the world, especially with China's aggressive strategies. So there was some assurance over there. But then looking at Joe Biden's track record when he was serving as vice president under President Obama, there were always some close links with India. Biden made sure that India had the U.S. support for India's membership in a very reformed and expanded United Nations Security Council. So Biden, as the head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, was very instrumental in driving this forward. He also named India as a major defense partner, which made it easier for India to share advanced critical technology from the U.S. to strengthen defense ties. And India was the only country outside the traditional allies which were given access to this technology. The two sides also signed the Logistic Exchange Memorandum Agreement, which was basically for deeper military cooperation. This agreement allowed the militaries of US and India to replenish from each other's bases, access supplies, make sure that they could get fuel, refueling in case the planes were flying overseas, the ships could use the ports. So Biden has shown his deep concern for India's strategic position in the Indo-Pacific, plus has made all the right noises during his vice presidentship towards having friendlier ties with India.
And it's not just bilateral, is it? Because you pointed out to me in an earlier discussion, India's critical relationship with Iran, and that also depends very strongly on how the US is treating Iran.
Exactly. I would say what India needs oil for its growing economy. In fact, a large part of India's foreign exchange is spent in sourcing oil from overseas. 30% of India's oil is imported from Iran. And when the U.S. implemented sanctions against Iran, India was given a special waiver for a few months that they could continue importing the oil. But now that waiver has come to an end, and India was struggling to find oil on global markets to meet its needs. And now there is a hope that with Biden coming into power, that he might like to sit down across the table and work through a discussion with Iran, opening up the sanctions with that country, which could make the oil flow into India a little bit easier. So these are some strategic issues, but most of what we need both the countries have China, which they're concerned about China's global policies, especially in that part of the world. And I think both the countries will cooperate very closely in defense ties and relationships to counter any of the growing assertiveness of China. And lately, there have been the Quad exercises in the Indo-Pacific area. The Quad naval exercises include America, India, Japan, and Australia. And this is the first time that the four countries have got together after about 11 years to conduct these exercises. India was not a part of this Quad, but it has recently been invited. And you can expect to see a lot of cooperation between these countries as we go forward under Biden's leadership.
Pawan, I know I'm pushing you, but in 10 seconds, can you just give me a comment on whether you think there's going to be a particularly special view or relationship with the incoming Vice President, Kamala Harris, given her background?
There would be. There are celebrations going on across India to know that Kamala has been, she's second in charge in the U.S., and people are absolutely excited. I think there would be a lot of linkages with Kamala and the Indian heritage in all media and perhaps some diplomatic channels.
Great to talk to you, Pawan. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Tracey.
Pawan Luthra there, CEO of Indian Link Media Group.